Hey everyone, we're just waiting for a quorum. So we'll be starting as soon as we get one more board member. Hey everyone, we're just waiting for a quorum. So we'll be starting as soon as we get one more board member.
Okay. Why don't we start there? Hi, everybody. We just saw one more board member log in, so we have a quorum. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 9:03. Is there anybody from the public who can just let in? And then I guess. All right, I guess, Essa, can you take roll, please?
So in attendance, we have Chair Don Mende, Vice Chair Gary Mackler, and Directors Jason Bradshaw, Jay Kimura, and Sabrina Nasser.
Thank you, Essa. I guess Jason and Jay, can you guys hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay,
Yes,
very
I can
good.
hear.
Okay, we just want to make sure, and I guess for the board members attending online, is there anyone participating at your locations? If there is, can you please identify them at this time?
Myself.
Okay. No, hearing none, all right. Moving on to item number 2. Approval of the minutes for the regular meeting held August 11th, 2022. Can we get the motion, please?
Move to approve.
Thanks,
I
Gary.
think, yeah,
Can we get a second?
Second,
Okay, thanks, Sabrina or Jay. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Item 2B. Oh. Okay, so item 3B and D, we're gonna defer to, we're actually in the executive session to approve the session minutes. So moving on to item 3C. This is to approve the minutes for the regular meeting held September 8th, 2022. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion.
Thanks, Jason. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thanks, Gary. Is there any discussion, additions or deletions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item 3A. All right. So this item 3A is to accept the audited financial statements of the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation's Nani Opuna project for the fiscal years ended June 30, 2022 and 2021. Do we get a motion there? Okay, can I get a motion, please?
Motion.
Thanks, Jason. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Gary. Before we go into the presentation, is there anyone that wants to offer public testimony on this agendized item? Not mine? All right, hearing none. Thanks.
Good morning, Chair Menti, Vice Chair Mackler, and board members.
I'm Holly Osumi, Chief Financial Officer of HHFDC. The Nanio Puna project is under the Dwelling Unit Revolving Fund, also known as DURF. It is comprised of 31 rentable units and 1 resident manager unit and provides housing for domestic farmers on the island of Hawaii. The project was funded through grants and mortgage notes with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. USDA requires an annual audit, which is the primary reason I'm here presenting the audit report for you. The audited financial statements of the project are for the fiscal years ended June 30, 22 and 21. The independent auditor, Acuity LLP, issued the audited financial statements on September 30, 22. Exhibit A, as part of the materials, is the complete audit report. Today, I'll be highlighting just the main facts. 2 reports were issued. First, the independent auditor's report found on pages 1 through 3 rendered an unmodified or clean opinion on the comparative financial statements. Pages 11 to 12, the auditor independent report on internal controls did not identify any deficiencies in the internal control that were considered material weaknesses, and there are no instances of non-compliance noted during the audit. On page 4, the statements of net position presents the assets, liabilities, and net position. The net position serves as an indicator of the project's financial health. On page 5, the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position shows the activities that resulted in the changes in net position. The project's net position decreased by approximately 30,000 or 3.4% to approximately 831,000 as of June 30, 22, as compared to 861,000 as of June 30, 21. The decrease was primarily attributed to net operating losses of approximately $9,000, net transfers to the DURF of approximately $20,000, and interest expense of approximately $1,000 for the mortgage with USDA. On page 6, the statement of cash flows shows the cash entered and leaving the project. Cash increased by $800 in fiscal year 22. As required under the terms of the mortgage agreement, the audited financial statements shall be submitted to the USDA by the deadline extended to October 31st. Staff's recommendation is that the HHFDC Board of Directors accept the audited financial statements of the project for the fiscal years ended June 30, 22 and 21. Are there any questions for me?
Are there any questions? No?
If not, you can always reach me.
We know where to find you.
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
let the record show that Director McCarthy is here. All right, moving on to item 3B. This is to approve resolution number 179, authorizing the issuance of Pulame multifamily tax exempt revenue bond for the Halina Po'o Anakahi West 30th Street Senior Veteran Housing project located in Hilo, Hawaii, PMK 324057030. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion.
Thanks. Jason, second?
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anyone that wants to offer any public testimony on this agenda item at this time? None, okay.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members of the board. I'm David Hoy, Housing Finance Manager. So this project is a 92-unit project, 91 one-bedroom units, and a single 2-bedroom manager's unit targeted at the elderly population in Hilo, Hawaii. The project has project-based Section 8 vouchers for 50 units. The scheduled target requested start date is November 2022, with the scheduled completion of the first building of February 2024, and the fourth and last building in May of 2024. The board has previously approved $2,574,289 in federal and state LIHTC, $16,905,832 RHRF loan, and issuance amount of $30,500,000 in tax exempt revenue bonds. The project team is preparing for financial closing. However, staff is still pending governor's approval for the increase in the issuance amounts of the tax exempt bonds. Therefore, final issuance and closing contingent upon not only the availability of bond cap, but also upon approval of the Department of Budget, Finance, and the governor. However, staff has reviewed the remainder of the application on this request and requesting that the board approve Resolution 179 for authorizing the issuance of tax exempt revenue bonds up to $30,500,000 from the HMF bond program, subject to all the provisions and conditions recommended in Exhibit B of the 4 action and previously mentioned conditions, and also to authorize the executive director to undertake all necessary tasks to effectuate the purposes of this 4 action.
Great, thanks, David. Is there any questions from the board?
Comment.
Yeah.
Just want to, this is really for the development team. I just want to say that I'm really glad to see Hawaii County supporting this project with its gap financing, federal housing trust fund money, project-based vouchers. It speaks very well. So, thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Anyone else? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 3. This is to approve an extension to the rental housing revolving fund letter of intent for the Hali Uhiwai Nalu Phase 2 project located in Kapolei, Oahu, PNK number 191013052 portion of. Can we get a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay, Mike. A second.
Second.
Thanks, Gary. Is there anyone that wants to offer any public testimony on this agenda item at this time? No? All right, seeing none, go. Is it you, David, again?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. This is a 50-unit project targeted at families, all studio units in Kapolei, Hawaii. On April 11, 2019, the board originally approved an RHRF loan of $3,378,100. The board approved an initial extension to October 31st, 2020. The second extension was approved through October 14th, 2021. That expires on October 31st, 2022 of this year. We are currently here to request another extension through October 31st, 2023. The project is targeting obtaining permits in January 2023, targeting construction to begin in June 2023, and completion of the single building project in December 2024. The project has site control. The fee owner is the Department of Veterans Administration, so VA owns the land. They have committed the project to give them a 75-year lease extension. At the present time, the lease is in its final negotiations. They are dividing the lease into phased parcels for the project, as this is phase B. The site survey is complete. The petition for amended petition for subdivision is currently with Land Court awaiting filing, and the revised Land Court map has been submitted to Land Court for recordation. Staff has reviewed this request and requesting that the board approve an extension of the Rental Housing Revolving Fund letter of intent for the Hale Uhiwai Nalu Phase 2 project to October 31st, 2023, subject to the requirements set forth in the original 4 action dated April 11, 2019. And also to authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this 4 action. I have the developer, Tim Cantwell, with me today, who's here to answer any questions on the project.
Thanks. Yes.
Just basic question, just more information on the extension. Is it mostly just the zoning approvals that then is the reason? Is it just these development approvals with HCDA that's causing the delay, or just more context on this most recent extension?
It is a combination of getting through land court,
Mm,
getting that approved.
mm,
And then they requested some amendments, which were just footers and headers, nothing of substance. It didn't change the boundary areas at all. And then the VA being the owner, we're the master tenant. So we're working between those two entities together with the COVID. This seemed to put everything on its ear. So, but we're on we think we're on the 1 inch line as far as it goes with getting the subdivision done. We don't have a zoning.
Anyone else?
I just want to say I support the extension. I know this is a hugely impactful project, given the population that you're serving, which, as I've read from the Department of Veteran Affairs, is housing for homeless and at-risk veterans and their families. So I hope you can get that one last inch done and get over the finish line and get to permitting and groundbreaking.
Like,
Anyone else? Yes, this is a great project. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Hearing none. Okay, carries. Thank you. All right, we don't have 3B. Okay, this is to approve fiscal year 3 application cycle for the low income housing tax credit program, rental housing revolving fund program, and the holding a multi-family tax exempt bonds. Can I get a motion?
so move.
Can I get a second?
Second?
Thanks, Gary. Is there anyone that wants to offer any public testimony on this agenda item at this time? Okay, anybody online? No? All right.
Thank you. Good morning again. This is again to approve the fiscal year 2023 application funding cycle for low-income housing tax credits, low-income multifamily bonds, and the RHRF. The staff is targeting applications to be released and published online on December 16th, 2022. We anticipate applications to be due on February 17th, 2023. We target making our 9% awards June or July 2023. 4% awards would be July or August 2023. And we will be using the 2022-2023 QAP for any applications. All RHRF funding rounds and requests are subject to the availability of funds in the RHRF. All HMMF awards are subject to the final approval of the Department of Budget and Finance and the governor, and to the availability of funds. Staff has reviewed this schedule, and we're asking if the board could approve the following: the application cycle for the fiscal year 2023 LIHTC program, the application cycle for the fiscal year 2023 RHRF project award program, and the application cycle for the fiscal year 2023 HMMF project award program. Also requesting to authorize staff to begin marketing the fiscal year 2023 RHRF project award cycle, and authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this branch.
All right, thanks. Oh, okay. Any questions from the board? All right, none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, okay, carried, thank you. All right. Francis, I forgot. So if you could give the instructions for the public testimony, the rules that I forgot to go over that before we started.
No problem, Chair. You want me to do that now or?
Yeah, please.
Okay,
Yeah.
these are the instructions for providing oral testimony to the board. Anyone wishing to provide oral testimony should indicate that to the chair. Oral testimony will be limited to 3 minutes, subject to the discretion of the chair. The oral testimony must be on a matter that is on the board agenda. As you begin your oral testimony, identify yourself and spell your name for the record. After 3 minutes, I will call time. You will have another 15 seconds to conclude your testimony. Please note that this opportunity is for you to communicate your concerns to us. If you ask questions during your oral testimony, neither the board nor staff is required to respond or answer your questions. Finally, anyone wishing to submit written testimony, instructions for doing so are on the front page of the agenda under the section entitled Public Testimony. Thank you for your cooperation in this matter.
So, okay. Thank you, Francis. One more thing too. So item number 3J, we're actually going to delete or remove from the agenda today. So if there's anybody here, we're not going to go proceed with that agenda item today. Item number 3E. This is to approve program year 2023 allocation plan for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's National Housing Trust Fund program. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion.
Thanks, Gary. Second, Jason? Yes.
Chair,
Second.
before we go into that item, I'm sorry, David would like to introduce a new member of his
Oh,
multifamily
okay.
team,
Yeah.
if that would be okay with the board.
My apologies. We have 2 new members of our finance branch in the multifamily section. First, over here, this is Jimmy Nguyen. He comes to us as a 3rd-year law student and has 2 years of experience working in the housing committee for the state. So we have, Jimmy's been with us since July.
Mid-August.
And then finally, we also have Ken Chung. Ken comes to us with a background in accounting, finance, and auditing. He has worked for the state of California in the past and also has experience in commercial asset management. And we welcome both of them to the multifamily team.
Oh, awesome. Welcome aboard. Yeah, thank you. I guess before we get into item 3E, is there anyone that wants to offer any public testimony on this agendized item? No? All right, David, go ahead.
Second.
I think, Jason, you seconded on that one, right? Okay. Yeah, okay. Thanks.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. So the National Housing Trust Fund, HTF, was created by Title I of the Housing and Economic Recovery Act of 2008 and is administered by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So it's administered by HUD. It's targeted primarily for extremely low income households, including homeless families, which could be 30% AMI. HHFDC is the designated grantee for the state of Hawaii for HTF funds. States are required to use 80% of each annual grant for 80% of this for rental housing, up to 10% for home ownership housing, and up to 10% for administrative and planning costs. Since the inception of the program, HHFDC established that the HTF funds would be distributed through the counties as the subgrantees. HHFDC would retain 5% of the allocation for administrative funds, and of that remaining balance, 50% would be allocated to the city and county of Honolulu, and 50% would be allocated to the designated neighbor island county that receives the home funds on the same rotation. However, in recent years, in 2016, 2018, and 2019, 3 of the previous 4 years, the city and county of Honolulu did not meet their HTF commitment deadline. As a result, the funds had to be returned for HHFDC, in which time we had to find alternate planning activities as well as, preparing amendments to the annual action plan that we go through every year. If you look at page 2 and 3 of the 4, you can see a breakdown of the awards and the years that funds were either returned or what projects utilized the funds. In an effort to improve the performance of the program, HHFDC made changes to the distribution of funds to prevent this recapture from happening. So in 2020, 2021, and 2022, the city did not receive an allocation of funds. In those years, this HHFDC allocated the funds that were supposed to go to the city and county, as well as the funds on the rotation, to the neighbor island counties. And if you look at the table above, you can see the uses of the funds by the neighbor island counties for these monies. One of the projects we did bring up that Director Mackler, you mentioned, the West Cooley Senior Housing, the Paulinacola Oil Hanakahi, is also using HTF funds. So they are listed on here. So those are the projects above that have used the fund. So for this program year 2023, we are asking if the board could, what our plan for this year would be, or fiscal year 2023, program year 2023, HFDC will retain 5% as usual for the annual allocation for admin planning costs. The balance of the HTF allocation will be provided to the County of Maui as the sub-grantee, as they are next up in the rotation. So, and then also the program itself, per HUD regulations, requires HHFDC to commit the funds within 24 months of HUD's execution of the grant agreement. And should this sub-grantee be unable to identify projects, HHFDC can seek alternate activities. And if they are not able to allocate the funds, as it has been done in past, and funds come back, HHFDC can reallocate the funds to other counties and other projects. As far as the maximum per subsidy limit for HTF, HHFDC uses the public housing total development cost framework, the limits as published by HUD, and that is detailed on page 5 of the 4 action. And these have been adopted for the HTF program. So we are basically setting our HTF limits at HUD's public housing TDC limits at the time of commitment of the HTF funds. So basically we're just following HUD's structure for the subsidy limits. Staff has reviewed this plan and we're asking if the board may approve the amendments to the HTF plan allocation as recommended by staff, subject to public comments. After public comments, authorize the executive director to approve the program year 2023 HTF allocation, provided that no substantive amendments are required, and authorize the executive director to undertake all necessary actions to effectuate the purposes of this action.
Great, thanks, David. Any questions or comments on the board?
I have just one question. You might have mentioned this. The city and county of Honolulu, they're aware of this change, right? To remove them from the 23 allocation.
Yes,
Okay.
we did have a meeting with them and discussed this with them.
We've had several meetings and I've met with the director for DCS as well.
Okay. That's it. For me.
Thanks. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. On to item number 3F. This is to approve 12599 Kapiolani LLC or other successor entity approved by the executive director as an eligible developer pursuant to section 15-307-24 Hawaii Administrative Rules. 2, exemptions from statute, ordinance, and rules pursuant to section 218-38 Hawaii revised statutes. And 3, execution of development documents for the approved exemptions for Hule Place for sale and or rental project located in Honolulu, Oahu, JFK 127-022-011-015 and 031-2049. Can I get a motion?
So move.
Okay, Mike, can I get a second?
Second.
Thanks. Thanks, Sabrina. Anyone want to offer any public testimony on this agenda item? No, seeing none. Right, Zach?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Stan Fujimoto with Development Section. Huile Place is a 1,005 unit for sale and or rental housing project at 2599 Kapiolani Boulevard in Mo'iliili, Oahu, Hawaii. The project consists of a 12-story building fronting Kapiolani Boulevard and a 43-story building towards the rear of the parcel with a 13-story parking structure between the two towers. The project proposes to contain 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units. 60% of the units, 603 units, will be affordable to families at 140% and below the area median income, and 402 units will be market units. The project proposes 1,670 parking stalls, bicycle storage for approximately 600 bicycles, 7,211 square feet of commercial space fronting Kapiolani Boulevard, and 50,643 square feet of open space. Environmentally friendly amenities proposed include solar water heating, gray water reuse for toilets and irrigation, electric vehicle charging stations, electric vehicle car sharing, and electric bikes and scooters as transportation alternatives. 165 of the affordable for sale units may be substituted with affordable rental units using HHFDC's rental housing revolving fund financing. If the rental units are implemented, the 100% AMI or below target market category will be increased by 74 units from the higher affordable target market categories. The for sale units will be subject to HHFDC's buyback and shared appreciation requirements, and the rental units will be affordable for at least 30 years from the completion of the rental units. The property is zoned A2 medium density apartment, and exemptions include exemptions from density, height limit, setbacks, lot coverage, A2 zoning use, park dedication, and waivers of fees. HHFDC accepted the application for processing, and the developer forwarded project information to the agencies listed on Exhibit E attached to the for action for review and comment. Agency comments are summarized on Exhibit F of the for action. The requested exemptions and HHFDC's recommended action are listed on Exhibit G of the for action. HHFDC is unable to approve the exemptions from the Board of Water Supply fees because they are excluded from HHFDC's exemption authority. So the recommended action for the Board of Water Supply fees is approval to the extent approved by the Board of Water Supply. None of the exemptions recommended for approval affect health and safety or contravenes any safety standards, tariffs, or rates and fees approved by the Public Utilities Commission or the various boards of water supply. The owner is 2599 Kapiolani LLC, and the developer is Kobayashi Group LLC. The development experience of Kobayashi is attached to the for action as Exhibit H. Kobayashi was the developer of HHFDC's recently completed Ale Kalele Residences and Judiciary Service Center / Shelter at 902 Elder Street. Ale Kalele is a mixed-use project with a residential component of 201 affordable rental units and a 32,000 square feet Judiciary Service Center component. This action requests approval of the following substantially as discussed in this for action. 2599 Kapiolani LLC or other successor entity approved by the executive director as an eligible developer pursuant to section 15-307-24 HAR. Exemptions from statutes, ordinances, charter provisions, and rules pursuant to HRS section 201H-38 as recommended. Subject to the conditions listed in the action, including the following, unless otherwise approved or extended by the executive director. Execution of a development agreement and recordation of affordable restrictions on the fee simple title to the property within 9 months from city council approval of the exemptions. Commencement of construction by the end of 2025 and completion of the project by the end of 2027. Elton Wong is here from the developer who will introduce his team and they will give a short presentation on the project, after which we are available for questions.
Hi, I'm Elton Wong from Kobayashi Group. We're here today. We have Alana Kobayashi Pakala from Kobayashi Group. And in the back, we have Brian Lee and Will Wynn from Black Sands Capital.
Thank you. Good morning. I appreciate your time to hear about Kuilei Place. So, and we know many of the items have been covered in the 4 actions. I'm going to go quickly through that and just kind of highlight some unique elements about the project. Our goal, Black Sand Capital and Kobayashi Group's goal for this community is to provide our Kama'aina community with an entryway to elevated yet attainable home ownership right in the heart of Honolulu. The name Kuilei is paying homage to the past. As you can see, our property outlined in red was in the Kuilei area in the historic maps. And Kuilei means to string a lei, which we felt was really great symbolism for the idea of making something greater than its individual parts, just the way that building community does. Here's our project location on the left side of Kapiolani Boulevard. Site just over 3 acres, just Malka of Date Street. And current project conditions, that's the corner of Mahiai looking back toward the property. This slide is detailing the building heights in the area. While we are asking for a 400-foot height, there are buildings in the area in 350 to 375, as well as in the view plane of 390 and 400. So it's not outside of the urban context of the area. Additionally, the project sits outside of the Waikiki view corridors and the Punch Bowl to Diamond Head protected view shed. Here's our rendering of the property. As Dan mentioned, it's a 12-story low-rise connected to a 12.5-story parking garage, connected to a 43-story or 400-foot condominium tower. Here's the ground floor plan. We have 3 points of ingress and egress. The center or main point is in and out, the far right in only, and the far left out only. Additionally, our commercial space that was detailed in the 4 action is in the upper right with its commercial parking right adjacent. Oops, sorry, that's okay. And then one thing to note is the balance of the area are residential units and amenities and management. We've been really thoughtful and purposeful on the way we've designed this property. The key is that it has affordable maintenance fees that remain affordable over time. That's really important. So while we've invested in designed beautiful amenities for the community, they are majority on the ground level, which will really help to keep the costs low both from a human capital and maintenance standpoint. Then additionally, we've been really thoughtful about
the fact that the key to bringing forward this project with the high number of affordable units and the high number of 2 and 3 bedrooms was really about having this density, 1,005 units. But how could we do this while at the same time providing high quality lifestyle? And we know this being 100% Kama'aina focused, everyone is going to be working, everyone's going to be going to school, people are going to be leaving in the morning and coming back in the evening. So we spend a lot of time making sure that our community can get on and off the property and into their homes conveniently. So we have a speed ramp, which is unusual in this concept, that will take you all the way up to level 12 here on the left. And then flat floor parking that will, so the residents only need to circulate on their level of parking. Additionally, the first 12 stories, 356 or a little over than a third of our community will live and park on their same level. So they will only use elevators to go down to the amenities or the mailroom. So then when we transition up to levels 13 to 43, where you see the full tower expressed, you'll note that additionally, we've broken down the tower to 2 different cores. And that allows us to have the west core here on the left, has 11 units per floor and shares 3 elevators and a swing service elevator. And then, so that amounts to 341 units on the west core, and the east core has 10 units of floor sharing 3 elevators and that same swing elevator. That allows that to be 308. So basically we've broken down the community to 3 different boutique smaller neighborhoods within a neighborhood, but to be very clear, affordable and market rate units are on every single floor. It's fully integrated, everything is shared. Then on the top level, 43, we took our 2 best view units and converted them to 2 private dining rooms so that all of the residents can enjoy these beautiful views that Elton just showed. So the essential and pillar of this project is that it's affordable and local. We've already mentioned 602 affordable units, 603, 402 market rate units. But wanted to note additionally that it was really important. This is really not about, this is one community that's fully integrated. So even the market rate units, we're highly focused on keeping those attainable to our local community. So like our highest priced unit is targeted at 1.15 or below, really staying under for that high quality offering, an attainable price point. So another unique factor, most projects, I believe in this comp set would have a large percentage of studios and 1 bedrooms. We've consciously don't have any studios and we have only 20% 1 bedrooms, which vast majority of 80% of the property is 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. And that's really because as we studied the market, we thought the greatest need really exists for affordable and attainable home ownership for the families, for Kama'aina families. So here's a rendering of our amenities on the ground level. 3 of our 9 barbecue cabanas shown here, 3 of our 7 private dining rooms shown, and then a glimpse into the community pool. Really important to us at Kobayashi Group and Black Sand is that we are going to deliver very high quality homes. And so the investment in things that you often maybe see more paired with higher market rate or even luxury items, split system AC, high 8'5" ceilings, lanais on most units, Bosch appliances, Kohler plumbing fixtures, and then the sustainable design elements that are very important to us and to the environment, but really to the long-term investment in the residents, because so things like all LED lighting, high efficiency and AC systems, the gray water treatment and reuse. We're working with state and city agencies to be the first property in Honolulu to treat our gray water and to R1 standards and reuse it to flush toilets and irrigation. That will save 11 million gallons of potable water a year. Actually, and also the upfront investment will mean that actually will cost less than municipal sewer and water for the residents for those 11 million gallons as well. Then one point I really wanted to highlight is as an example of our commitment to the long-term thinking. We're really talking about, we look at the life cycle analysis. We look at 40 years and say, are we making the right decision today for our future owners? So centralized solar hot water is something that is really not common in this concept. Usually it's individual water heaters in every unit. But as we studied it, for an investment of just under $2 million, which is a lot of money, but $2 million will amount to over $8.5 million of life cycle cost savings for our future owners. Additionally, they will get 9 to 10 square feet back of their livable area that they're paying maintenance fees and real estate property taxes on that they don't get to enjoy when they have a water heater in their unit. So we think it's those kind of decisions that are really important for high quality, affordable homes. And, oh, sorry, and the last piece where we were able to the first time use carbon cure in a high rise with Holly Kalele. We're really excited to implement it here and really moving forward in all of our projects to bring lower carbon footprint concrete to our developments. So our timeline, we plan to submit our building permit this month in October. And as Stan already mentioned, targeted construction Q4 of next year and completion summer of 2026. And I just wanted to close by saying, Kobayashi Group and Black Sand, we're dedicated to not just providing affordable condominiums at Kulile Place, but really about, like I'm saying, investing in high quality and really thinking long-term. Our goal is that when this project is complete, that you, the board and the staff would all be very proud of having approved it, but even most importantly, that the future owners will be very successful and happy in their lifestyle. We hope to be back in front of you again and again, producing just these kind of homes because we know they're in great need. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks.
Excuse me, Chair. Just for the record, I wanted to know that the corporation did receive an email from Tim Stripes, Chair of the Makali Mo'ili Neighborhood Board, and the email was forwarded to each director. So just wanted that reflected in the minutes for your consideration. Thank you.
Francis, yes, the board did receive that communication.
I have a few questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
In our for action, it's mentioned that the City and County of Honolulu indicated that the project did not meet the minimum eligibility requirements for a project seeking exemptions through the city's 201H program. So I assume that's why you're here seeking 201H exemptions through the state.
Yes.
You know why? I guess my question to that is why did the City and County of Honolulu make that determination that it didn't meet their requirements?
Yes, before we met, thank you for the question. Before we came to HHFDC, we did present the project to DPP in the city. And our main concern with their 201H program is their 30-year buyback period. We've really studied the market. That will not be beneficial to the future owners. And we shared with them our concerns, and they actually did process our rejection from their 201H program quite quickly so that we could come back through HHFDC.
Chair, can I make a comment to just maybe to add and could I piggyback to that? So for our new board members, the thing about this type of project on a for sale project, it doesn't receive the type of subsidies that our rental projects do. We really don't have enough of these for sale projects that have some affordable end market. Of course, the market units, again, basic economics is needed to help pencil for the affordables. And the thing with the city's chapter 38 is 30-year requirement on an unsubsidized housing unit is way too long. And I think the city is reevaluating that policy to see if it's actually generating housing. And I'm so glad we have the 201H available so that you can still build. The other limitation with the city's rules is that I believe it goes only up to 120% EMI. And this gives you the full extent of the 140 EMI benefit. So I'm really happy that you guys can, come here before us and that we have that option for you to allow
Thank
this
you.
to be.
And thanks for
Thanks for
clarifying
that explanation. I just a follow-up to that, to my first question is, so which legislative body does this run through under 201H-38? Does it run, where does it go after, assuming it gets approved today? Is there a legislative body that's going to either approve with modification or disapprove?
It would be go to the city So, and the
So it
city
goes back to
council
the city,
has
the county
45
council? or the
yes.
city?
45 days to kind of approve the
To act on it.
exemptions.
But it would still be under the HHFDC
Okay.
guidelines and program.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay.
And we have, and we could have complied with the 120, just to be clear, it was really the
I-
30 years.
I get it.
You just have to bring in studios,
Okay.
unfortunately.
And if I could just add one more note, I just want to, say I commend you folks for thinking long-term, because this is a product that could address our gap group, our gap income group that are willing to make the investment. You're going to build something that they want to invest in the long term. So this is the type of product that I think our gap income group appreciates and is looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I can. Okay, elsewhere in the for action, it's mentioned that within the project site, there are 20 multi-story walk-up apartment buildings with approximately 141 1- and 2-bedroom units. So in my mind, I'm thinking about displacement of living units and relocation concern. Is there any relocation assistance or plan to assist those families who are currently living within the project site?
Yes, well, first, and I believe in the fraction, we did commit that we'd be working with our tenants and giving them 2 months free rent, so that while they find, while they're looking for the replacement property, that they aren't trying to carry two different rents. Additionally, we have plans, Elton, do you want to go into a bit more detail?
So we're gonna have rental assistance to try to find them, connect with other agencies. We're gonna provide them their deposit back. So we're gonna, and then we want to notify the residents as soon as we can in order to give them the kind of the horizon to kind of think about what their next move is. So providing a lot of information and assistance to them.
Well, how much lead time do you think you will be able to give them?
We'd like to try to start notifying them that they got wind of it on the Monday front ad. So we're trying to, just brief them, keep them informed of each step of the way. So it starts
already
Monday. Sorry.
Soon. Okay.
So that's a good start.
Thank you. I have one other. And this relates to the testimony that we received yesterday from Mr. Tim Streets. He talked about I think we have several concerns, but one of the major concerns is traffic, changes to traffic, et cetera. And there's a comment in he makes about the lack of accessible project materials has made it difficult for the board and community to evaluate the project. And has this board been given access to the traffic impact assessment report?
Your board?
No, the community,
board.
the
No,
neighborhood board?
So the first time around, when we went back in February, they basically said traffic and schools were an issue. So that's why we went back last week to address the traffic report. And so we had, between then, February and now, we completed our traffic report. We went and reviewed that with the experts, which is DPP, traffic, the Department of Traffic Services and Traffic Review Branch. We incorporated their comments into the traffic report. And so now we have a final traffic report that we will implement and follow all recommendations.
Well, given the concern expressed in this testimony that we received, will you be sharing the amended report with the neighborhood board?
We can.
Okay, I think it's important to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just going back to the residents that would be relocated, how many residents are we talking about? What's kind of their economic profile now, or what information do you have on them now?
We have 137 units that will be relocated.
Okay.
We do not have the kind of the profile on there.
Sorry, just need to mention that one of our directors had to leave, so Director Batcha has left, but we still have quorum.
And then maybe just for the public, maybe you could speak about the available infrastructure there versus other places that people think you should go, right? So everyone thinks about, we should put it here because we don't want to displace, because this place is open. But then you have to take into account the available infrastructure like sewer and that capacity, right? So my understanding, and that's one of the corridors that is available, but you need to increase density. So it's a challenge that, as we go forward to renovate and remodel our city, given all the things that need to be done, how do you carefully relocate and displace people and then renew, but then you also have to take into account the sewer. So maybe you just want to share a little of that complexity when you're looking at the site and your plans.
So early on in the project, we met with all the agencies. So we have letters that sewer, water, electricity, cable TV, internet are all available and ready to go for this project.
Yeah, and to your point, we don't take lightly upon the fact that we will have to assist in relocating I believe actually it's 140 tenants. However, creating 1,005 residential units, of which 603 will be affordable. And if we are successful in our tier 2 application, 165 would be gap group rentals. So
some of them could come back.
They definitely could come back. And we are committed to doing our very best to assist them in their relocation process as well.
Would you consider those that are displaced, giving them, if they're eligible at the time, giving them at least some preference for if there are rentals, affordable rentals?
So I don't believe we have the ability to give preference that specifically, but we are going to do our best to help our current residents, if any of them qualify for income restricted rentals, to help them with that process and giving months of education and help them with that application process, which can be challenging.
No, and I think we know the history in that area, other proposed developments and those type of units. And so I think there's a lot of lessons that maybe everybody can look back to so we don't repeat them. And I think that's what you're trying to do, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what's the age of those existing units? When were they initially?
1960s. Yeah. Walk up.
Yeah.
Sandy walk.
Yeah.
Also, additionally, there is a pretty significant flooding issue. As you know, that area has really no improvements. It's dirt and asphalt. So we will be bringing forward, the complete streets, the sidewalks, bringing the power lines underneath, underground, and bringing in the storm and drainage to alleviate that issue for the whole neighborhood.
Do you happen to know what the average rent is for those units now? Those ones, or like a 2-bedroom or 1-bedroom?
1 and 2 average.
And just one comment, I really appreciate the sustainability components in the development.
I think it's very important. And actually, we'll also pay back for the owners in the long run, which is an important thing.
If anybody could figure out how to do it right, I think you guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, Jay, do you have any questions? Anybody else? I just want to make one quick comment. Thank you for this, what you're doing with this project and the thought behind it in the construction and whatnot. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a very good project for the residents that we have there. It's a very needed one too. Like Denise said, you know, that gap, you know, workforce development side. We really need that. Any more questions? All right, I guess I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 3G. This is the approved proposed new chapter 15-321 Affordable Home Ownership Revolving Fund Program for administrative review, implementing the provisions of section 21H-206 for a revised statute by establishing an affordable home ownership revolving fund program. And get a motion, please. Move to approve. Thanks, Carrie. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mike. Is there anyone that wants to provide any public testimony on this agendized item? No? Francis Jensen?
Well, we did receive a letter from Claudia Shea, Executive Director, Self-Help Housing Corporation of Hawaii. I believe the copy has been provided to each director, dated October 12, 2022.
Thank you, Francis. Yes, it has been distributed and support. We receive it. Thank you.
Yeah, good going. Act 227, Session Laws of Hawaii 2021, which was codified as Section 201H-206 Hawaii Revised Statutes, established the Affordable Homeownership Revolving Fund, or ARF, to be administered by HHFDC. The purpose of this fund is to provide loans to nonprofits to develop affordable homeownership projects, typically self-help housing projects. And this proposed new chapter of Hawaii Administrative Rules would implement the provisions of 201H-206. This past session, I apologize because 2B should say Act 248 Session Laws of Hawaii 2022, which was the Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2022, appropriated $5 million to this program. The proposed chapter is attached as Exhibit A to your for action, and I'll just summarize some of the substantive provisions. Program funds shall be used to provide loans for the development, pre-development, construction, acquisition, preservation, and substantial rehabilitation of projects that meet the minimum criteria specified in the chapter. The project shall be subject to a competitive funding round. There's a criteria point system attached as Exhibit A to the proposed rule. And in section 3C of your for action, there's a description of how awards will be made according to the priorities that are set forth in section 201H-206. The loans and fees that we propose to charge are summarized in the table under section 3D of the for action. So a $1,000 non-refundable application fee, loan origination and extension fees, each equal to 1% of the loan amount. And we propose to charge a fixed interest rate of 1 to 2% per year for the loans made. Staff's recommendation is that the HHFDC board approve the proposed rule, subject to approval as to form by the HHFDC's Deputy Attorney General, approval by the governor, to authorize the executive director or her designated representatives to conduct a public hearing on the adoption of the proposed rules, authorize the EV to make any necessary non-substantive amendments to the proposed rules following that public hearing, which may include the incorporation of public comments, and after the public hearing, authorize the ED to transmit the proposed rules to the governor for final approval, provided that no substantive amendments are made. I'm available for questions, as is our finance staff, who will actually administer the program. Actually, I should make one note. I meant to make one note before going to the recommendation. The statute contemplates also, in addition to providing loans to nonprofit housing development organizations, it also contemplates providing loans to CDFIs, so community development financial institutions. We found, after working with program staff and our attorneys in developing these rules, we found it problematic to include CDFIs in the rules at this time. And really, it has a lot to do with the two priorities of projects that are set forth in the statute. So there's a first priority of awards that we need to be made and a second priority. And so that requires us to have a competitive funding round to actually score and rank applications. And because section 201H-206B requires loans to be awarded to projects in order of those priorities, that requires us to develop scoring criteria where you have the housing developers and the CDFIs competing head to head. And the CDFIs don't really have projects to bring, they have a program to bring, which they want, which the statute provides for HHFDC to make loans to that program, which would then be used to fund project loans. So we found that very problematic to implement. And although I think we will explore it a little bit further in the coming year, at this time, we decided to not address funding loans to CDFIs in the proposed administrative rules.
Question.
Yes.
So you mentioned loans to CDFIs. Is it loans to CDFIs or is it for projects that are receiving funding through CDFIs?
So the CDF, my understanding of the reason why the CDFIs were incorporated into the final legislation is that they want the ability to have a commitment of funds from the state that they can then take to US Treasury and leverage our funds. So, I mean, I think, what, in that case, we're being asked to invest in a program and not in a project. Although the programs at the end of the day fund projects, right? It's not a direct funding of a project from HHFDC. And so when you try to, throw them all in the same pot and try to score them, it becomes really problematic.
So Chair, if I could just add a little bit more context, I believe, while we were working on this bill with the legislator, the intent was really to fund these self-help type of models in terms of the development, and then using the federal programs through HUD and other agencies, Treasury funds, USDA, RD, just really as gap financing to close the gap that these self-help type organizations were missing. That's my understanding was the intent as we were developing this bill.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand this. So the CDFI, including the CDFIs, was in the legislation.
Correct.
HHFDC is proposing this first round of bills first round of admin rule to exclude the CDFI, so you can have a more uniform scoring sheet for project-based loans, so that you're not just funding like working capital essentially for CDFIs to then use.
Yeah, that's essentially that's correct. We just couldn't figure out how you can make them compete against each other and how you would use the same criteria to score them.
If I could just add, the bill language is to fund projects.
Yeah.
Okay.
the,
So the
the
bill is
language in
Specifically,
the
it says
bill
projects
is
or
to
units
fund
in
projects,
projects.
not a CDFI.
Okay.
And one, which David and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but you know, funding, when you're talking about funding CDFIs who will then lend to projects, it just makes us one step removed from the project. And then we get into issues like what's our security for the loan?
Exactly.
You know,
yeah, more risk.
Like,
And it's like you're funding another lending institution,
yeah,
right? I
yeah.
mean, the intent is to fund the project.
Yeah. Yeah, and this makes sense to just do the projects and not have the risk from not knowing how the loan would be secured if it's a program that's funding it.
I'm not saying we can't figure out a way possibly to do it in the future. I don't know if that will require a change, legislation.
Yeah.
But we get a $5 million slug of money to play with now. And if that, if we can put that out successfully, then, hopefully we can build on the program.
All right, anyone else? So we don't need the question. Okay, if there's nothing else, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job in figuring that out.
Yeah.
I had a lot of help, as usual.
Okay, moving on to item 3H. This is to approve proposed amendments to and completion of chapter 15-08 state of assisted sales and lease program for administrative rules to provide a preference to first-time home buyers, increase the effectiveness of program compliance activities, improve program efficiencies, and make technical amendments. Can I get a motion, please?
I so move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there anyone that wants to offer any public testimony on this item at this time? No, seeing none. Okay.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Cynthia Nyros. I'm a housing planner here at HHFDC. This request is for the approval of the proposed amendments to and compilation of Chapter 15-308 State Assisted Sales and Lease Program, Hawaii Administrative Rules. I'll now explain the differences between the proposed rules and the current rules. Number one, it provides a preference for first-time home buyers as opposed to qualified residents. So it does this in several ways. It relaxes the restrictions on assets and gifts, expands application intake requirements to include first-time home buyers, which speeds up the process. Provides consent for an existing loan for additional financing after the fact, when the owner is compliant with the program rules and agrees to meet certain requirements. Currently, these owners will be considered non-compliant and subjected to HHFDC's repurchase of the units under the buyback and shared appreciation equity programs. And it allows the owner to rent the dwelling units as part of the corporation's waiver of the repurchase option due to construction litigation. Currently, the owner would be non-compliant if they did that, which would result in foreclosure. Another big thing that it does is increases the effectiveness of program compliance activities and improves program efficiencies. It does this by implementing fees and charges for administrative expenses. Okay, and lastly, developers can now use websites, social media, and informational meetings as part of the publication announcements. Currently, they're limited to newspaper publications, which may not be seen by their target buyers. So the end result is to make it easier for first-time home buyers to purchase their first home. I would like to point out that a correction is needed in 15-308-43. There should be a subsection A, which reads as follows. 15-308-43, application intake list requirements. A, during the initial offering period of 30 calendar days, the developer's designated broker shall compile an application intake list consisting of the names, addresses, and phone numbers of all individuals stating a desire to purchase an affordable unit contained in the announced project. So our recommendations, we recommend that the board approve our proposed rules, which are subject to approval as to form by HHFDC's Deputy Attorney General and approval by the governor. Authorize the executive director or her designee to conduct a public hearing, and authorize the executive director to transmit the proposed amendments to the governor for approval, provided there are no substantive amendments made. If you guys have any questions, Lorna Komatani, Sales and Counseling Chief, is available. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Any questions?
No.
Yeah. Call for the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, carries. Thank you. Right, moving on to item 3I. This is to approve the repeal of chapter 17-2006 loan program for California disaster victims for administrative rules as the rules relates to a one-time public relief program to assist residents and citizens who lost homes and lands as a result of the volcanic eruptions on the island of Hawaii, which began on January 3rd, 1983, is no longer needed. Can I get a motion, please?
Where's Jay? What's his island? That's his island. No, your island.
So moved.
Okay, thanks, Jay.
I'll make that.
Look at us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Is there anyone that wants to submit any public testimony at this time in this agendized item? None? Okay. Yes. Oh, yeah, we did, yeah. We did receive a letter. This one here. Probably Julia. Lani. We just want to reflect it in the record that the board did receive that written testimony.
Hello, Cynthia Nyros again. This request is for approval to repeal Chapter 17-2006, Loan Program for Kalapana Disaster Victims, Hawaii Administrative Rules. This is a housekeeping item. We would like to repeal an obsolete rule. Chapter 17-2006 provides for low-interest loans to the residents of Kalapana who suffered the loss of their homes and lands to the devastating effects of the volcanic eruptions in 1983. The program was a one-time public relief of last resort. There are no outstanding loans related to the program. Here's some additional background. In 1991, the legislature appropriated $1.7 million in general funds for this relief program. And then in 2004, the rules were promulgated by HHFDC's predecessors, the Housing Finance and Development Corporation, and then the Housing and Community Development Corporation of Hawaii, which are administratively attached to the Department of Human Services. Not noted in your packet is that the legislature transferred the $1.7 million to DLNR in 2001 to finance infrastructure developments. Since the current rule falls under Title 17, Hawaii Administrative Rules, DHS is the lead agency for the rule repeal, but HHFDC Board of Directors approval is still required. We recommend that the board approve the repeal. This is subject to approval as to form by HHFDC's Deputy Attorney General and approval by the Director of Human Services and the Governor. Let me know if you have any questions.
I just have a quick question. The last loan, do you know when the last loan was given out? It sounds like this was a very long time ago. So it's been,
We don't.
okay, but it's been at least 20 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were able to confirm that there are no loans currently outstanding.
Okay.
And then the money was basically swept from us by, the ledge directed BNF to transfer
the funds from, I think it went into the Housing Finance Revolving Fund to DLNR for an infrastructure program that I believe was still related to funding infrastructure that was necessary to remediate the impacts of eruptions on Hawaii Island.
Yeah, okay, because we have the testimony in strong opposition, but it sounds based on all these facts that this program's.
Yeah, I haven't
pretty
seen, I actually
obsolete,
didn't get a chance to
visible.
see the testimony.
And I think that money was transferred back in 2001.
Yeah.
It was a long
so,
time ago.
um,
20 years ago?
No matter, because it is under Title 17 of Hawaii Administrative Rules, even if you wanted to continue this program, we need to repeal it anyway and promulgate
Doesn't
new
fall
rules under
under
Title
us.
15, because we're not attached to the DHS. This agency is not attached to the DHS. Mike's here, we're attached to DBIT. But yeah, there are no funds available, and I don't foresee any funds becoming available for this program.
And there was no sunset date on the original act?
No,
Really?
it was written.
Yeah. 91, I was there.
Give the background.
That was for Senator Levin, I think, pushed it.
91.
Yeah, way back because about it was 1984 when it erupted. Yeah. I think it was back then.
So even if we wanted to do something like this, we'd have to repeal it and reissue it other times.
Yes, correct.
So maybe we could just, for the record, can we just communicate with Julia to just let her know that we're always in support of that intent, but given the availability of funds and the statutory and rulemaking conflicts, this program couldn't be implemented if we wanted to, and and so if there's anybody that still wants to call, they probably have to get a new act done legislatively.
And appropriate.
And an appropriation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we, I did respond.
Because we're not displacing anyone, right? We're not disqualifying anyone because of this, or
No.
because even if they wanted the money right now, we couldn't execute it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the act is still in the books. The admin rules are under the wrong chapter, and there's no money.
Yeah. So that's good.
I did email
Okay.
Julia yesterday in response to
Thank
an
you.
email from her. So Jules is the office manager for Senator Keohau Kalole.
Okay.
And so we'll follow up, just kind of give her additional detail. So because perhaps there wasn't enough information in my email.
No wonder he was calling me yesterday.
Oh, no. Sorry.
But he's my senator, so I can explain.
Yes, we know him well.
Okay.
Cynthia will get me.
Good.
Just trying to be responsive.
Yeah,
No, I think that's a good
absolutely.
idea. Yeah. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Hearing none, motion carries. All right. Can we take a break? 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Yeah.
10 minutes, returning 10:35. we got caught? Okay, all right, thanks, everybody. And moving on to item number 4, we are going into executive session. This is to get an update on the status of lease renegotiations for the Waihole Valley Agricultural Park and Residential Lot subdivision located in Waihole, Ko'olau Poko, Oahu TMK 148 various. Can I get a motion? Oh, no, not a motion yet, son. It's just update, yeah. Is there anyone that wants to submit any public testimony on this agenda item? Can you please state your name for the record, please?
Sure. I'm John Rapun, REPPUN, a resident farmer tenant in Waihole on an ag lot. And I work at Key Project nonprofit, and I also serve on a Kalu neighborhood board. And I know about the written testimony, but this wasn't even available 24 hours ago. So got 2 motions, and I'll pass them around that we passed at the neighborhood board. The first one, if I may, is sort of business relating to Albizia. Waihole, in a nutshell, Waihole, Waikani, Kahana valleys, Waiava on the other side of the Ko'olau's from those 2 valleys. Totally infested, one of the most infested areas in Oahu with Albizia. And the Ko'olau Mountain Watershed Partnership folks have been working very hard with large landowners trying to address the issue in the Mauka areas. But of course, Albizia is now down into the areas where people are living and around infrastructure and so on. So our motion last night is basically aimed at you folks, DHHL, the 2 primary landowners and private landowners, because we're simply not effectively addressing Albizia encroaching on the infrastructure, the roadways, the power lines, the communication lines. And we've had several outages where valleys basically been shut down in the last year. And as you know, with your own water system up Mauka, and constantly Albizia is falling on the lines and knocking up the power. Yesterday we had no water on our farm anyway. So we have to address it. We're already into hurricane season. Both the HHL and HHFDC have the same party contracted to deal with sort of landscaping, arbor control along the roadways and so on. Not really doing the job. They're just coming along with a lawnmower and mowing the grass. And we've got, and this, again, it's not just aimed at the agencies that have jurisdiction, but the private landowners, large private landowner along Waihole, huge trees that are looming over, especially the North Fork, but also the South Fork of the road. So that's our motion. We need some help. We've got lots of expertise in the valley. These folks do tree trimming and whatnot, South Pacific Contracting and others, Asplund's up there a lot and so on. So anyway, that's that motion. The meat of the matter really is the second position that the neighborhood board took last night at my urging. The Kalu neighborhood board represents the area from He'ia to Kualoa, including Waihole, Waikani. And we have always stood very strongly behind agriculture, small rural family farming kind of agriculture, not large scale agriculture. We've had our battles over water. We've fought very hard for water to be restored to stream ecosystems, to the estuary of Kaneohe Bay and so on. And we've been, I'm going to say, pretty wildly successful. And we've all learned, the entire spectrum of those involved in that issue have learned a lot about water management. The water is becoming super important. Things going on with Red Hill, the Waihole Ditch is an amazing system. We'd love to see it tapped for hydroelectric power because it's always flowing. Whichever way it gets allocated, it's always flowing in the ditch from Kahana to Waihole. Maybe it's a solution to the power issues in Waihole. We've been talking to Hawaiian Electric and others, ADC. And you folks administratively are now kind of partnering in the deep end with quite a number of agencies, energy, ADC, and so on. There's some real opportunities there. And that leads to, so we're in lease rent renegotiation, as you know. Many of us farmers are feeling like we're kind of in the wrong ballpark trying to discuss this. For the housing branch of the state, it's been very instructive listening to all of what you've been dealing with on your agenda today. I'm glad we're kind of last because we're an aberration, no matter how you look at it. I looked at the 2015, under Craig Uri, I looked at the 2015 report, and Waiahole pops up as a paragraph. Maintaining Waiahole Valley subdivision. HHFDC owns approximately 885 acres in Waiahole and so on and so forth. We kind of don't fit. We're a square peg in a round hole for you, and we understand that. We're grateful for HHFDC having carried us, HHA prior to that having carried us these many years, but I pushed under Craig Uri for a strategic planning process to get underway. And to his credit, he put money in that budget. Thankfully, we recognize that you've been a reluctant landlord and we just didn't have a plan, but maybe with a plan we can get somewhere. But we've never finished that process. And I say we because we're as invested in that strategic planning effort as you are. Without a plan, it's really tough to know how we move ahead. And that's just a strategic plan, not even a master plan, because there are many others. ADC, DLNR, DOE with Waiahole School, a 10-acre parcel that could be married together with that school, turn into, they're struggling to stay alive with weighted school formula. But what if they were for education at all levels around agriculture, ecology, and so on? That's our dream. We're 70 years old, and now with pronouns, it's we, she, they, all of that. Mine's an adjective: determined, determined. I will be determined forever, and we're teaching our kids and our grandkids and our great grandkids to do the same thing. We have no intent of being there for a lease, for a short term. We have every intent to be there forever and be a part of the solution to food security, environmental integrity for our islands. We know the challenges out there, and so that's why we want to be there forever, because we think we can do a good job. We also know that many are not compliant in the valley when it comes to ag. Why is that? Every one of our ethnicities, wherever we came from and arrived in these islands, including Hawaiians, we all knew that lexicon of sustainability, survivability, but we have all lost it to some extent, and we have to relearn it. We have to relearn how to feed ourselves. We're still 80, 90% dependent on outside resources for food. And so to do agriculture and environmentally respected agriculture, really, you have to be there forever. That's when you're going to start planting trees. You're going to design your own infrastructure. The Hawaii systems that we inherited, those are 1,000 years old. We want to be that agricultural community. We're not going to solve the housing issues that you're wrestling with. We're certainly not. And if we do try to solve some of those housing issues in Waiahole, then we're displacing small rural family farming. How do we fit in the bigger picture? In our resolution, we refer to He'ea Uli, where Kako'iwi is. Mike knows we battled tooth and nail with KSPE to fight off the development of golf courses and housing around that area. And again, we were successful thanks to the collaboration, Haunani Trask, Mike, myself, Harold Masamoto. Finally came down to a conversation with KSPE. What do you guys want? They wanted a 1/4 acre of kaka'ako, and they turned around and gave HCDA basically 400 acres of breadbasket. And it's amazing what's going on there. They're producing food. Maybe we need, and that's farm to table. Kaka'ako needs food. They're growing it out there. A nonprofit is running it, not a farmer. It's a different paradigm shift, going on here. So maybe we just haven't figured out the model for Waiahole. When George Ariyoshi grabbed whatever money was closest, he reached into the closest bucket to bail out a contentious situation in Waiahole. And it was there, and we've been dipping into that ever since, trying to do capital improvements, things that really belong with what you're doing in housing. So a different model, and I'm not sure what that model is. I did kind of cite in the SMS effort to do a strategic plan. There was a whole section on community farmland trust potentially. We never got to exploring that. Bruce Cheetah didn't get to exploring that. We want to explore that. We worked closely with the Trust for Public Land before they even had a local office.
Yeah, we brought it here.
We brought it. I mean, that's why 100 acres in the Makai side of Waiahole, Waikani got set aside. It's through TPL and ICE-T money that the feds had for states that they weren't even using. And we think that the pieces, the components that can take us forward are there. But I don't think we're gonna get there only through HHFDC. Having HHFDC at the table is great, but ADC should be there. They're running the dish tunnel system. DHHL should be there. They're not there. DOE should definitely be there. We're not worried about this small school syndrome. We know we can turn that school into the learning center that it needs to be. There are many seats at the table. Again, I don't know. You know, Heia is an HCDA district of sorts.
Yep.
And maybe that's a model to look at. And maybe an HCDA not wanting the headache of managing that district could parcel out the management to a third party. Maybe that third party could be a land trust that the community is squarely at the table with and helping to be a part of. We know it's our Kuleana to step up as well. The lease rent renegotiation process we've been going through has definitely stirred the pot. Chris knows that. We have people all over the place tearing their hair, some of them wanting to make a deal, but they're all over the map. But everybody is paying attention. We're having great farming meetings. I mean, yeah, we're having fun. So what do I say? As you go into, hearing the updates, we just want you to think about that bigger picture. We want to be a part of we want to carry this experiment of Holy Waikane forward. We want to do honor to people like George Ariyoshi who dared to step in and help out, Randy Kalahiki, others. And has it taken a long time? Yeah, it has taken a really long time. Have we been busy? Holy Waikane's been involved in every single struggle on the windward side, from Monowili, fighting off development there, Heiakia, 500 acres of Waikane sitting there under the city, mouth of the highway, no master plan, getting overgrown without region. You name it, 100 acres on the Makai side that's waiting for Lo'i restoration, and the Hawaii system, the bridges and every issue. Our community has been involved. The gray hairs, the white hairs attest to that. So I'm committed. Man,
Right, thank you. Aloha, Ka'anaptu Kalama Jacobson. I'm a farmer up in Waihole. I was blessed to take over my farm about 4 years ago. My farm alone had over 150 albizia, over 80 to 100 feet tall. And the person I took over the lease he was aged. He was too old to keep up. His family wasn't into farming. He wanted to go back to Samoa. We were the right place, right pick for him. I'm going to be there for a long time. My children are going to be there for a long time. I'm committed. But what I see, and I know there's this HFDC is probably struggling with the leases that aren't performing to what they're supposed to be doing for years. And I see the other side of the younger generation of me and the rest of the guys that are coming up that want to make change, want to change this, want to make this the valley that it should be. It's like Uncle John said, it's a very special place with the history, with the future, and the education. I had over 150 kids. These guys have crazy amounts of kids that go to their farm, but we've started to bring in kids, so the education value is there. So it's hard to go into lease negotiations when you have the residential bottom half of the valley. And what we're saying is we feel like we're in a different, we have different restrictions, different, we have the environment to deal with. My farm was flooded massively a couple of years back, and we lost a huge amount of area that we were preparing to put Lo'i in. And now we're back again, and we're trying to redo the OI and get everything back to be able to plant by next year. So our 5-year plan is still in the process, but we had to deal with that, and we have floods every year, and so we learned how to manage it. We brought the kids in to learn how to manage the riparian zone, so it's an education plus it's a benefit for us, but it's just the value of money. And as a small farmer, we're putting in everything, heart and soul. I had to put in our own electric poles to put in to get power to our house. My father lived on the property for 8 months on a generator. We're committed, and we love it. We're blessed. But then we have the non-compliant farmers that kind of bring us down. And some of them are non-compliant because they're just, it's age. Their age is, they can't farm anymore. So we want to do a sharecropping type of thing where we can get a good farmer in there that can produce and start bringing value back to the state, and yet have that kupuna knowledge to stay there and to kind of guide the person down, because they need to know the history of the valley. You can't move forward without the history. So we just want you guys to, think about that when you go into your meeting. That the lease negotiation to me is not cut and dry. It's a tabletop discussion that we'd love to come in and sit down and have the people who are really doing the right thing in the valley to sit down and say, this is our 10, 15, 20-year plan, 30-year plan, you know, and going to the lease, because as farmers, you know, we put a tree in the ground, I plant ulu, we're not going to get anything back from that tree for, you know, 5 to 10 years. A lot of plants, we can't grow mango. We have to really be specific about what we grow in the valley. And with guys like this and his family and the Sadayamas and all the old time farmers that are giving us our mana'o and our aloha value, you know, knowledge, I think we can do it. But it has to be a team effort. We have to work together, and we need to sit down and say, okay, we're really going to invest. I listened to the state address from Governor Ige talking about long-term leases in agriculture, but we got to invest in the right agriculture, not the gentleman farm, not the person that's going to come in here and throw 4 horses on their property and call it a farm, throw Norfolk pines and call them Christmas tree sales. We need to value the people who are bringing in the schools, educating. It's a huge, you know, value to our community. And, you know, I sit on the board of Key Project. So we're also trying to, you know, strengthen our community, educate our community, and get them compliant and say, okay, why aren't you compliant? Okay, what can we do to help you get compliant? I've cut down with my brothers in arborists, our company. We've done tons of albizia work for free because it definitely affects everybody in the valley. One albizia tree can spread seeds for miles away. And so, like I said, we've taken out over 80. I got tons of pictures, and if you come to our farm, it's completely changed, and now it's time to put back into the ground. Take out the bad stuff, put back into the ground. That's where we're at right now, and it's every day I wake up blessed, and I thank you guys for the opportunity. I thank the state for the opportunity to have this kind of valley. I just see 30, 50 years down the road, this place could be on the map as one of the greatest, you know, food to table entities. So I appreciate you guys' time, and you know, just wanted to give you a little mana'o about what we're doing over there in the valley. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time. I know you got
Yeah.
you've had a long agenda already.
And sorry I didn't come to the meeting last night, but now I got it, so tell them okay.
Yeah,
Mahalo
thanks.
for the,
Yeah.
I know I got that, so.
Thank you
Thank
guys. All right, take care. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question. You know, you mentioned Mr. Suchina, it was Townscape.
Right.
And they were
Yeah.
brought in by HHFDC to sort of
Second
evolve from the SMS
Yeah.
report or whatever
Right.
you call that. And then it was upended because of the process was upended because of the pandemic.
Partly,
Maybe not.
you know, Bruce himself, he's like me, you know, older dog, newer tricks, Zoom, all of that was maybe a bit of a challenge. And I think some health issues, to be honest. And I think the WWCA steering committee kind of pulled the rug out from their side as well. And then you folks had formed a subcommittee that was going to work with the community on strategic planning, and then that was rescinded. So we all kind of backed off. You know, if we could do it all over again, I think it'd be really interesting. Say we were a land trust or some kind of a larger entity, I'd be out there engaging a G70 and at the week of McKeegan, people we've talked to with Dean about, you know, and really do a full-on process, and we pull in DHHR, ADC, all of that. ADC, of course, now migrating from DOA to the DBED. So there's so much influx. And of course, it's a political year, the whole landscape will change, the roadmap will change. So we need something that's more on the ground that's going to help us find our way forward.
Yeah, I asked the question because you mentioned about needing a strategic plan before you master plan. Is it time, do you think, to re-engage and trying to work forward with well, even with a strategic plan?
I think it's always the case, yeah. The other entity that sits under DBED administratively is the Office of Planning and Sustainability. And planners that I've known for years in there say, hey, we haven't even begun to look at sustainability. Yeah, so I mean, the stars are aligned. Pulling them together is really essential. I just want to say one other thing. You know, having Apu here, Apu's up and running, and I'm older. You know, I got a Bachelor of Arts. But I turn around, like Kaua Friola, for example, kid who grew up around our farm. He's got his PhD in stream biology. You know, Marie Fielkowski, our next door neighbor, is teaching. She's got a PhD in nutrition, teaching at UH. There are people who are getting their masters in urban and regional planning. These are kids. You know, we're not just SMS kind of looked at a bunch of older farmers. Well, of course we get older, we don't get younger. And next generation is not gonna just rush back home, you know? But as soon as we're out of the way, yeah, they're gonna rush back home. And they're bringing incredible skills, education, experience that will be applied, and they are interested in coming back. So neither SMS or Bruce Uchida got to that next layer because they don't live in Waihole necessarily, living down the road with wherever, but they're ready to come home. And they weren't engaged in the conversation. So, yeah.
I wanted to just touch on that, and from my values as being a new incomer to the valley, I saw a lot of the old fight still in the people, and I think that's where WWCA turned off for me. And for me, it just, you know, it's time to sit down there and hold Pono and say, okay, to move this place forward, we have to not forget about what happened in the 1970s and 60s, but we have to be able to listen to the other side. I don't think they were even given a chance to propose it, because I met with them also up at our farm, and I loved it. I thought that was great. At first, there was great progress, and I think the perfect storm happened with the animosity, COVID, and everything. And we were talking on the side like, hey, we want to get going, and we would get shot down at the WWCA meetings, to be honest with you. And for me, it's tough. We had to sit apart and in these lease negotiations and kind of start a farmer's hui, because when we were talking to the WWCA about lease negotiations, they weren't listening to our side of the story. And for us, it's a whole different story. It's, you know, we deal with pests, we deal with the water, we deal with weather, we deal with inflation. I mean, today we got the report that it's the highest inflation rate in 40-something years. I don't know, I was listening on the radio on the way here. But that affects us farmers. Everything that comes in goes out. But you see models like the ULU program. You see things that we can do, and we want to get. And the hard part is a lot of our farmers are spending so much money on gas, fuel, and everything to load up their stuff, take it to a facility, set up their tent, barely sell their product, go to the next place. Now they have a shelf window on their food, and that gets wasted. So we want to start, our family start a co-op in the valley where you come to one location, save on gas money, save on everything, and we will supply the farming and the communities with the product, because everybody needs it. You know, and I see COVID has taught us that we're behind that 8 ball, and we can't keep relying on these ships to bring their stuff in. My cousin is the president of Steve, he doesn't want to hear that, but we cannot keep relying on these people. We have this farmland, but we need to. There's a lot of tension in the valley, and it's a lot of the old rhetoric, and it's like, hey, you know, we never forget about that. We learn from that. We learn how to treat each other better, speak better, you know, and that's what we told them. If we're going to come and do a lease negotiation, we're not going to yell and scream. We're not going to come with pitchforks and burn cars. That's the old way. Now it's to sit down and communicate, you know, respectfully. So I think that's what happened, and I really thought they had a lot of good plans. I mean, process we started off with, and then it just disappeared. And sometimes, you know, you need a new revamped board out there to maybe get, you know, just listen. Sometimes they're saying the same thing, but they just don't get a chance to speak.
We're worried about the housing branch being with I know, just I'll say it. The housing branch. We don't want to see you set a precedent for the ag land rates on the state, 6.6 times above what Department of Ag and others are looking at as far as ag land lease rents. That's not a good idea for the housing branch to be setting that precedent. We can do this differently. We can differentiate between maybe the ag lands and the residential part of the valley. So anyway, you guys have a lot on the agenda. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
See you guys. Can read the book outside and leave them out there. Okay.
Leave them with the
Oh, yeah.
reception.
Oh, you can give them that.
That's what you wanted, huh?
Oh, wait. Here, just give us the book and take
Oh,
that.
perfect.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Leave that to Jane.
So that's the anti-Europa statute.
Are we gonna move it to executive session?
Yeah.
Okay, so, can we get a motion?
Yes.
Can we get a motion for the Board of the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation anticipates convening an executive session pursuant to section 92-5A3 Hawaii revised statutes to deliberate the authority of persons designated by the board to conduct negotiations to acquire public property or during the conduct of such negotiations, and section 92-5A4 HRS to consult with the board's attorney on questions or issues regarding the board's powers, duties,
privileges, immunities, and liabilities as it relates to this matter. Can I get a motion, please? Thanks, Mike. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thanks, Gary. All in favor?
Aye.
We are in executive session.
That's a chance to break up the roll.
Gordon.
So quickly, right?
Gordon.
Sick leave, vacation.
Oh, yeah, we've been working.
That's
Hard, yeah.
Yeah.
He's helping me with the stadium.
Oh.
right, are we back in?
Yes.
All right, we're back in regular session. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Chair, just for a point of personal privilege for the record, that I just wanted to re-emphasize that for the Waihole negotiations, the board has delegated to Chris to be our point person and negotiate on behalf of the entire board and the state of Hawaii. So just want to make it clear that any testimony before the board is not necessarily what we want to go through that kind of process. We want to make sure we stick to the process of working directly with the lessees in the community. So we're not encouraging testimony on these negotiations before the board because we have a approved process and delegating that authority to our staff. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director McCarthy. And I just want to put a record that in the executive session, we approved the executive session minutes of August 11th and September 8th, and we'll make the necessary adjustments to those minutes as well. All right, moving on. Item 5, report by the executive director.
Good afternoon. Thank you, directors. I know this has been a very long meeting, so I'm going to make this really short. I know you were interested in training and development. The staff has researched it, and we're going to look at doing at least a LIHTC and private activity bond overview sometime in January 2023. It'll be a webinar. We'll also look into what it takes to travel, possibly for the board chair for the NASHA conference for that as well. Over the past, from the summer up until now, we participated in several groundbreakings and blessings. And I just want the board to be aware, starting from July, we were there for Kahaluilani on Maui, along with Kaia'ulu o Kukuia. Together, that's about 300 units for affordable housing on Maui. In August, we were there for the groundbreaking of Wailuku Apartments. This is a 201H program. We don't have any financing in it. It's going to be privately financed. But the point is how important 201H is. That's going to be 324 workforce units involving the AFL-CIO on the funding side. And then last month, we did show up for Pu'oloke, which is now called Ho'upu View in Lihui. That's going to bring over 50 units for seniors, I believe, in the Lihui area. And then just last week, I participated in the blessing for Mehe'ula, I think the third phase that's up for Mehe'ula Vista. This is senior rentals. And then they broke ground for phase 4. Total, that's going to be 300 rental units for our seniors, and they're beautiful. The comments that we got, we had 2 senators there, Senator Dela Cruz and Kidani, that said it looked like hotel rooms. So that's something to celebrate, I think, for our seniors. But that's all I had. I'll keep it brief. Happy to answer any questions in any of our reports.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, through the executive director's report, maybe share with the board and you that I was at with the governor and Craig Hurai in San Francisco for the bond rating. And so this agency was mentioned by the governor as being very helpful in meeting some of the affordable housing goals, because those questions came up about our economy and about where we're at with housing. So I just wanted to put that on the record, and I think you'd be proud of him mentioning that there and the housing targets that we had and where we're at and what's in the pipeline. He knew the numbers very well too.
Wow.
Wow, very good. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. That's it.
Anything else? If not, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion. So this is a motion I will support.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we get a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay,
so
soft
much.
structures, what was our bond rating? Did they give one?